street.
Residents were convinced they knew the cause of this high rate of cancer. They blamed the electric substation. It takes up one side of Meadow Street and sits only 100 feet away from the closest houses. Electrical substations transform high voltage power into lower voltages before going through residential power lines into homes. It's a big, noisy neighbor to the residents of Meadow Street, giving off high levels of electromagnetic energy which frightens even scientific researchers.
I wouldn't want to live there. I tell you that. I wouldn't. And I certainly wouldn't want my children to be raising their children across the street from a substation. And as a matter of fact, when my daughter was buying a house in a working class section of Cambridge, I went to look at the house, and there was a step-down transformer outside the room, I would say 3 feet from the room that the baby was going to be in. And I was absolutely opposed to her putting the kid in there.
Dr. Reba Goodman is a cell biologist at Columbia University. She is conducting research to see if electromagnetic fields can change our cells, making them more susceptible to cancer.
With electromagnetic fields, a little bit can be bad, then there can be an increase which will have no effect, then there can be a greater increase that can be very bad, and the whole problem is to find the range within which these fields have an effect at the cellular level.
Life on Meadow Street hasn't been the same since an article in the New Yorker magazine strongly suggested that electromagnetic fields from this substation might be responsible for the illnesses on Meadow Street. Jack Walston remembers Meadow Street. He grew up there, and when he married and started a family, he bought a house just down the street from his parents on Meadow Street. He blames the electric substation for the death of his entire family. His father died of a brain tumor at the age of 54. His sister died at the age of 54. And doctors removed a brain tumor from the front of Jack Walston's head.
I was 35 years old when I had that operation. At that present time, this meningioma tumor that I had was the largest in the history of Yale New Haven Hospital, larger than a large grapefruit. Like I said, I do have a reoccurrence of it.
Melissa Bullock was Jack Walston's next-door neighbor. She was a high school basketball star and straight-A student. She also developed a brain tumor at the age of 16, which required surgery and radiation, but she survived. In 1987, the local newspaper did a little investigation of its own and discovered this startling number of cancer cases not only around the electric substation, but along the entire length of the high power lines throughout the state.
I can even name after name of people who live along the power lines that have died with cancer, malignancy of some type. From one street to another. Some of them were relations, some of them were friends. We, as individuals, have never been able to prove that this is what does it, but I firmly believe this is what it got to do with it.
The electric company acknowledges that the levels of electromagnetic radiation are high at the substation itself, but that they drop off significantly further away. Bob Carberry is the manager of transmission lines and civil engineering for the power company.
The levels that I've observed on Meadow Street due to power facilities are quite common. If there was a real problem here, it should be showing up in more places than Meadow Street.
The power company says the levels of radiation near the Meadow Street homes are within the normal range. Within normal because radiation exists in nearly every home in the United States. It's produced by electrical wiring, appliances such as microwave ovens and even electric razors. But the electromagnetic radiation from a substation is constant, and the residents weren't convinced that their neighborhood was safe. Residents of Meadow Street wanted answers about the high number of brain tumors on their small street, and they wanted the word from Town Hall if the electric substation might be the cause. They gathered at a public meeting, anxious to hear what health officials had to say, and what they heard they couldn't accept.
Our conclusion is that there is no cancer cluster on Meadow Street in Guilford.
Even though there were 5 brain tumors on a street with only 9 homes, they said since the tumors were different, they didn't qualify as a cancer cluster.
2 of them were benign, so-called tumors, and
those were meningiomas that have many known risk factors or associations, and electric and magnetic fields is not one of them.
But one of the brain tumor cases, the one discovered in Melissa Bullitt, has been linked to electromagnetic fields.
I could find any one of them to change places with those people on Meadow Street and bring their family there. And I'll guarantee you not one of them would do it.
Researchers have found modestly higher rates of cancer, including leukemia and brain cancer, among workers who are exposed to electromagnetic fields in their jobs. One study found that welders have significantly higher rates of cancer because of their exposure to radiation.
There's been some extremely good epidemiology done, and in fact, there's more epidemiological evidence for the relationship between cancer and magnetic fields today than there was when we accepted the relationship between asbestos cancer back in 1949.
But other studies have been inconclusive.
One reason why this is a controversial area, why many scientists have refused to accept the epidemiological evidence, is because there is no obvious biological mechanism whereby magnetic fields can cause cancer.
There is some evidence to suggest that it's not the level of electromagnetic radiation one is exposed to, but the number of times an individual passes through the field.
People are exposed intermittently. They go in and out of fields at different lengths of time. And laboratory data has shown that these kinds can have a synergistic effect. But the fact is that until we understand how these things affect cells, we're just not going to know.
Scientists may be getting closer to understanding a possible link between magnetic fields and cancer. Dr. Goodman has been studying the effects of electromagnetic fields for more than 15 years at Columbia University.
We don't know whether electromagnetic fields cause cancer. The most likely thing that they do is that they may promote cancer. That is, if the cell or the body is in contact with some environmental toxin, and they are also getting some kind of EM field, these two things together could cause cancer. And this has been shown in animal studies.
The residents of Meadow Street found themselves in a difficult situation. Local health officials never said magnetic fields didn't cause cancer. All they can say is it hasn't been proven.
Our conclusions as a Department of Public Health were that we didn't see a cluster of cases that could be identified as from a common cause. But by the other same token, we couldn't say that they couldn't be related to electromagnetic fields or the electrical substation.
It's my personal belief that when a biological mechanism is established, that there will be a very rapid conversion of the doubters of this effect. Right now, this is a controversial area.
I think that in 5 years we'll know what this is all about. I'm very hopeful.
But the scientists' opinions don't mean much to someone like Jack Walston, a man whose family and friends were ravaged by cancer. He already has his answer.
In my opinion, I do believe the electromagnetic fields, low level radiation, has a lot to do with it. There was a lot of illnesses on this particular street and the surrounding streets.
And when there are 5 brain tumors on a street with only 9 homes, it's difficult for residents to accept that it's merely a coincidence.
I felt as though there's too much that the average public doesn't know. And I wanted to get that word out that there was possibly an animal out there that was killing them and their kids and their family.
I don't feel it's a natural thing for cases in as many homes as there was, and I never will feel so it's a natural thing.
2 cities, 2 cancer sites, and 2 unsolved medical mysteries. Public health officials can offer few answers for the residents of Meadow Street and Maryvale, Arizona. And with the lack of definitive information, the result is usually fear and anger. Over the past 22 years, the CDC has investigated over 108 cancer clusters throughout the United States and around the world. It's the premier medical investigative agency in the world, and it has never been able to find the cause for a single cancer cluster. Not one.